you could please have a seat, I want to welcome you to the annual State of the County Luncheon presented by the Seminole County Regional Chamber of Commerce. Before we start, we've got a wonderful addition on stage with me today, and I'm not moving because I've always dreamt about being in the Seminole High School Gospel Choir. And at this time, I would like to introduce our wonderful county manager, Mr. Kevin Grace.
Thank you, Diane, and good afternoon, everyone. The chairman and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, talk to you about our county government and our county in general. As you can tell, we've changed our format just a little bit this year from what we've done the past few years. I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking to you about and taking credit for our many accomplishments over the past year, while the chairman's going to be discussing with you some of the difficult challenges that are facing our community over the coming years. County and city managers usually are the ones who get to deliver the bad news, so I appreciate the chairman allowing me to be the bearer of the good tidings today. But with regard to 2004, looking back, it proved to be an exceptional year for Seminole County. It was a year that tested our abilities, but also demonstrated our strengths, both as a community and as an organization. You can't really review the past year without talking about the hurricanes. In fact, 2004 will likely become the year of the hurricane in Florida. As you all know, after going over 40 years without a major storm in Central Florida, the county was substantially impacted by 3 major storms over a 7-week period in August and September. While I don't have the time to cover all the issues surrounding the storms today, I do want to give you a quick glimpse of the challenges that we faced. As an immediate result of the storms, the county had a myriad of issues to deal with, including widespread power outages, difficulty communicating with the residents, lack of water and ice, damaged roofs, downed trees, flooded streets, among a number of other things. While we certainly had many challenges during and after each storm, we were successful in meeting the needs of the county until basic services could be restored, which is in fact our responsibility to the community. But once the power came back on and water and ice were no longer a problem, we were still left with the number one problem left over from the hurricanes. Anybody know what that is? Storm debris. Lots and lots of storm debris. Working with our emergency contractors, Seminole County undertook a massive cleanup effort to collect and dispose of this debris. More than 300 trucks and crews were used to collect the debris from sunup to sundown. The cleanup effort was not fully completed until just this past December. During these few months, the county collected approximately 10 times the wood waste that we would normally collect in an entire year. So that's 10 years worth in about 4 months. The cost to county government, not including the cities, but just the county related to the debris removal, is going to be over $30 million. The total cost to county government for the 3 hurricanes, Charlie, Francis, and Jean, is almost $55 million. After the expected reimbursements from FEMA, if we ever get them, and the state of Florida, the county's ultimate responsibility will likely be about $6.5 million. Now, before I finish with the hurricanes, I want to take just a moment and recognize some of the folks who were responsible for helping us respond after these events. I want to recognize the county employees. Many of them left their own families and their homes during and after the event to serve during the emergencies. They did a super job, and I want to recognize them. And we have a number of county employees here. If you guys would stand just for a moment and be recognized, representing the county employees. Thank you, folks. Also want to recognize some of our key partners in the response effort. Sheriff Don Esslinger and the men and women of the Sheriff's Office were absolutely incredible. You have to be there at the EOC during these events to really appreciate it, but anything that needed to be done, they were there to make it happen. As were the school board and Dr. Vogel, the Seminole Community College, and each of the 7 cities in the county. Finally, I want to recognize the power companies, Progress Energy and Florida Power and Light. They were there with us in the EOC. They did a fantastic job of getting the power reestablished. So we certainly appreciate that interagency cooperation. We could not have done what we did without it. We've all learned a lot from these storms. We will be even more prepared for the upcoming storm season, which, by the way, starts in exactly 102 days. So you may want to go ahead and stop on the way back to the office and get your batteries and water. Another major event last year was the opening of our new criminal justice facility. This $44 million facility, which houses the criminal courts, is located in our 5 Points area and is the largest single construction project in the history of our county government. It's 5 stories tall, about 220,000 square feet of space, houses 10 courtrooms, 11 judges' chambers, a grand jury room, offices for the state attorney, public defender, clerk of the courts, sheriff, and court administration. With the exception of a minor delay due to the hurricanes, the facility came in on time and under budget. In addition to the Criminal Justice Center, the county completed a number of other notable facilities during the past year or so. These included the $4.2 million expansion to our Juvenile Justice Center, which added about 21,000 square feet of additional space for our juvenile court functions, This facility is also located in our Five Points governmental complex. We also opened another section of our popular trails network, the Flagler Trail. It's an unpaved wilderness trail in the eastern portion of the county that runs from the Orange County line to the St. Johns River north of Lake Harney. This project also included the construction of a bridge over the Econ River. We also completed the Markham Road trailhead along the Seminole-Wekiva Trail in the northwest portion of the county. The county's also continued its long-standing commitment to the transportation system with the completion of some major roadway improvements. We recently completed the East Lake Mary Boulevard project, which extended the four-laning of Lake Mary Boulevard from US 1792 to the Orlando Sanford International Airport. In 2005, the county will begin the construction of the final phase of the Lake Mary Boulevard project. Next month, construction will begin on 3.5 miles of new four-lane roadway from the entrance to the Orlando Sanford International Airport to the intersection of State Road 46 and 415. This will create an important regional transportation link to Volusia County, and it will be a tremendous asset to the continued development of the airport. The widening of Ronald Reagan Boulevard also was completed in 2004. This $18 million project four-laned this important roadway from Altamont Springs to the Sanford area. We also completed the four-lane expansion of County Road 419 from Lockwood Road to 2nd Street in Chuliota. 2005 is going to be a very busy year for road construction in the county as well. We expect to initiate construction this year on Airport Boulevard, Bunnell Road, County Road 46A, Eden Park Avenue, and Lake Drive. With regard to economic development, Seminole County has been a regional leader in job growth for a number of years, and 2004 was no different. Last year, 12 companies expanded or located their operations in the county, creating approximately 1,800 new jobs with an average wage of $44,000. County governments continue to view its top two economic development priorities as revitalization of the 1792 corridor and the Orlando Sanford International Airport. With regard to the 1792 corridor, highlights of recent activities include the renovation of the former Kmart building, landscape and pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Airport Boulevard and US 1792, and the relocation of the Sheriff's District 6 Community Service Center in Fern Park. The Board of County Commissioners also demonstrated its long-term commitment to this effort by voting to extend the Community Redevelopment Agency by another 10 years. 2005 will include reconstruction of portions of 1792 by the state of Florida, as well as water, sewer, and streetscape improvements along the corridor. With regard to the airport, I'm not sure there's much that I can tell you that Larry Dale hasn't already shared with you in some fashion or another. But the airport continues its impressive growth. It's clearly developed into a major economic engine for the county and a job generator as well, contributing $1.8 billion annually to our local economy and providing 4,700 jobs. However, with the completion of the Lake Mary Boulevard extension around the airport, which I mentioned earlier, the expansion of utility services in the area by the city of Sanford, and hundreds of acres of land being available for development, we believe that the growth opportunities at the airport have really just begun. The next decade should be even more exciting than the last. To finish up my portion of the presentation, I want to take a moment to give you a quick snapshot of the county's financial condition. And rather than give you a bunch of numbers about our budget and that type of thing, we've chosen to focus on two key elements or components of evaluating public finances, and that's debt and tax rate. Also, in order to have meaningful comparisons, we are comparing ourselves to the average of 12 mid-sized counties around the state. And by mid-size, we mean those with a population between 250,000 and 550,000. As you can see from this first comparison, Seminole County is about 17% lower than the average county in that group in outstanding debt per capita at $328. Just for comparison, the highest county in this group is Collier County in Southwest Florida, which has about $636 in debt per resident, or almost double Seminole County's level. Another measure of debt that we've included is our annual debt payments, shown as a percentage of our total expenditures. So as you can see from these numbers, we're about 24% lower than the average mid-sized Florida county, with about 4.6% of our total expenditures actually going to service debt. The highest in this group of counties in this area is Sarasota County, with over 10% of their expenditures going to debt. The next comparison measure we've shown you is the tax millage rate. Seminole County's countywide millage rate is about 21% lower than the average mid-sized county at 4.99 mills. The highest county in this group is Escambia County at 8.75 mills. Finally, the ultimate measure of our financial condition is what Wall Street has determined it to be. Seminole County is one of very few counties in Florida to maintain a AA rating from both Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And a recent report from Standard & Poor's stated the following about Seminole County government and its finances, and I'll quote, "The county's financial performance has been sound over the past 3 fiscal years with balanced operations and strong reserves." While this doesn't sound very exciting, that's about as excited as these guys get. So I think it sums up our financial condition pretty well. And it was these strong reserve levels that allowed us to financially weather the storms that I talked about earlier and to accommodate the tens of millions of dollars in additional expenses that we had to absorb. In summary, the county has a history of conservative financial management with low debt levels and low taxes. The result is a sound financial condition that will serve as the foundation for the county to address many of the challenges that we face in the coming years. And now to talk to you about some of those future challenges, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, Carlton Henley. Mr. Chairman.
You guys behave over there. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin took credit for all the good things. I want to remind him that the scripture says a man shouldn't think more highly of himself than he ought to. Because we're going to expect him now, since he's accomplished so much in 2004, to handle all these challenges that I'm going to be sharing with you here today. If my voice sounds a little bit different, it is, and that I have been suddenly discovered after 72 years that I have allergies. And so I can't eat wheat, can't eat tomatoes, can't eat chocolate, can't have coffee, can't have tea, and I can go on and on. And I told the doctor, I said, I've never had allergies in my life. And he said, well, you've matured to the point that your immune system is breaking down. And I told him, I said, you know, you're not too encouraging. I said, I'm too darn old for sex, and now I can't eat. All right, so what am I, you know, so what am I supposed to do? That's not funny. When Diane and Kevin set this up, I told them, I said, look, I don't want Diane introducing my fellow commissioners. I want to do that. Because I knew when she got through, their head would be so big, I'd never be able to control them again in a meeting. So I want that privilege for myself. And I'll begin with the old man of the commission. About let me rephrase that, the dean of the commission. Before he reminds you, I'm several years older than him, and that's Dick Vanderwide. Thank you, Dick. Dick is the commissioner from District 3, and he's in his 4th term of serving the county. The next I'd like to introduce is Randy Morris. Randy is in his 3rd term, serving as the commissioner from District 3. Randy not only serves Seminole County, but he's running Metro Plan over there as a president. He's president of the National Planners Association, and I don't know what all, because I think he spends more time in Washington lobbying and working up there than he does on the commission here. But he's done a great job and has served Seminole County well. And then we have Miss Brenda Carey. Brenda? Brenda has been around a long time, not nearly as long as Dick and I, but she has served this county as a volunteer in more committees than I could name for you. And so in the last election, the citizens decided to put her on the payroll, and so she's the new commissioner for District 5. And then we have Bob DeLaurie. Bob Bob has served for the last 8 years as councilman in Oviedo. And those two hit the ground running. They're doing a good job, and I'm happy to have them there. If I were to grade them, I'd have to give them both an A. I think the only mistake they've made thus far was electing me chairman. All right, but they can take heart. There's only 10 more months left in there. Then you can pass the mantle to somebody else. Ladies and gentlemen, Seminole County is a great place to work, to live, to play. That didn't just happen. Things have to be made to happen. Kevin was restricted to talking to you about those things that occurred in 2004, rather than going back over the last 10 years as we've traditionally done, because you folks know what has happened in Seminole County. You've been a part of it, with all the partnerships that's set up and the new businesses coming in and the high-paying jobs, the thousands of jobs that's been added in this I-4 corridor is because of the effort, not only the county commission and the courage they had to begin to try to attract the types of businesses that we want in this county, but they put money up as incentives also to compete. But that would not have been sufficient if it had not been also for many of you who are sitting here, like Randy Barrage, they're heading our high-tech corridor work there. You've played an important part, and we have the right to be proud. But things change, and with growth comes challenges. I won't name them problems because they're challenges, they're opportunities. And I want to take the time that I have to share with you some of the challenges that we're going to be facing over the immediate and next few years. I will not be talking about all of them. I'm not even going to talk about transportation, because you'll hear about that and what's on the horizon out there for the region in transportation. I'm not going to get into the stormwater issues that we normally try to talk to you about. I don't want to talk to those things that are going to be really meaningful in helping us to improve the quality of life in Seminole County. That's what it's all about, is trying to maintain and improve the quality of life. One of the first issues I'll talk to you about is one that has been in the news recently. That's about our library system. I had a call from one in the media asking me if I was aware of where we stood in comparison to the others. And I told him what I knew, what the circumstances were regarding the library, but I hadn't bothered to compare us with somebody else because that really doesn't mean anything to me as to how we stack up with somebody else. The important thing is, are we serving the people of Seminole County adequately? And the answer to that is no, we are not. Seminole County got into the library business in early there in the 1970s, 72 I believe it was, when they first set up a contract there with the Orlando Regional Library. And then in 1975, we created a division of libraries in here to concentrate on bringing libraries into Seminole County. In '82, many of you recall, the citizens of Seminole County voted to tax themselves to get into the library business. And we built about 5 libraries at that time, and they were up and operating by 1988. But since that time, the population in Seminole County has increased 41%. The amount of checkouts from these libraries has increased 172%. But the problem we have, since these libraries opened and the population has grown as much as it has, the libraries are no longer adequate to meet the needs for that growth. We actually have fewer seats now than we did the day we opened, because we've had to continue to remove seats in order to shelve books, the 534,000 books that are in those libraries today. So it's important that we recognize that this is an issue that needs to be dealt with in Seminole County. The current building sites present a problem to the commission in that they are constrained, and we do not have room to enlarge the present libraries beyond 20,000 square feet all total. It's been recommended by a committee from the mayors and managers along with staff that new regional library buildings of approximately 40,000 square feet be constructed in Seminole County. Library users are a lot more sophisticated than they used to be, and the demands for the variety of services that they're asking for today cannot be offered in the existing buildings. Some of those services that are being demanded, there are rooms of varying size for meetings, for group study, for tutoring sessions. We're getting greater demand for more public computers to access the library catalog, the internet, and word processing applications. There's tremendous demand placed on all of our libraries for DVDs there and video collections, CD music collections, things of those nature. There are the demands that are there. We're even receiving tremendous requests for computer laboratories to be placed in those so that the public would be able to receive instruction and so forth. The preliminary estimated cost to build those libraries as they're recommended there, along with some renovation of the existing, is $53 million. Think on that for a moment. You wonder why we are in the circumstances we are regarding libraries. Well, we concentrated on libraries in the 80s, as I said, when we built those. In the 90s, there was a major concentration on road building, major concentration on buying up and conserving natural lands. It was in the late 90s that we already also began the work for the new judicial building that we have, the criminal court building we have, the expansion of juvenile justice in there. So we haven't been sitting idly by. We also began a tremendous effort to create miles of trails throughout this county with some overpasses also over those busy roads in there. So we have not sat idly by, but it's now time that we begin to address some of those things that were started back in the 80s, and libraries is one of them. Another challenge facing us there is the John E. Polk facility. This correctional facility is owned by the Board of County Commissioners, but it's operated by the sheriff. The original facility was built in 1981 with 212 beds. Shortly thereafter, they were double bunked. Since that time, the facility has seen a small expansion in 1987, which cost approximately $13.6 million, adding 480 beds. Over the last 5 years, however, the population in the correctional facility has exceeded significantly the number of beds available. The average daily population in that jail is 960 inmates. In 2000, the commission commissioned a study of the jail situation. And of course, they came forward with what we expected. You need more beds to house the prisoners that are there. The study suggested that the number of beds be expanded to 1,152 for a total bed count of 1,964 in order to provide space for inmates from 2012. The consultant recommended a phased approach to this expansion. The first phase being to add 640 new beds, a new intake, booking and release area, and administrative area. The first phase at a cost of $42 million. So the board will be spending some time trying to determine how to fund that. One of the other areas that became of great concern to the commission in 1998 was that of the numerous subdivisions that we have that are outliving their planned life, the aging of so many of our subdivisions. Many areas in the county were built prior to 1945. They have limited infrastructure. Between 1945 and 1983, there were close to 600 plats that were recorded and constructed prior to the state regulations that we're under now from the Water Management District and also the current codes that are required to be met today on these developments that are coming on board now. Many of these constructed systems are in need of major rehabilitation. The sampling of 88 of those communities found the following types of problems: flooding issues, lack of easement, groundwater seepage, lack of sidewalks and ADA accessibilities, lack of hydrants, fire hydrants in many of those areas. Those folks have been living in Seminole County many, many years and paying taxes. And this is something that the commission is going to have to address. We don't even have an estimate yet as to what that's going to cost, but it's something that needs to be addressed. It's not right for us to be approving all these beautiful new developments, and they are some wonderful ones, and yet a large portion of our community are living in one that needs major rehabilitation in order to improve the quality of life for those folks. This is something that the county commission will be looking at in their priority setting stages that they're going through. And again, as I say, the cost has not yet been even estimated. One of the other areas that has received a great deal of discussion in the last few years is potable water, our water supply. You hear a great number of people saying, you know, it's almost in the crisis stages. You have others saying we have plenty of water. I don't know which one of those are true, but I do know the rules and regulations that we're working under have changed significantly. There have been restrictions, as you're well aware, on the usage of water for watering our lawns. There's a reluctance to approve new wells. There's a tightening of the consumptive use permits. This created quite a concern to the commission as we are continually approached with new developments coming in. One of the problems that we're facing here is the way that St. John's operates. We are divided up into 4 quadrants, this county is. We may have plenty of consumptive use permits available in other quadrants, but we can't exchange them. And we have a significant shortage in the northwest quadrant. And that problem there that we're dealing with, of course, the St. John's said you're getting the water out of the Floridian aquifer. That's true. Residents in Seminole County are using over 20 million gallons of water a day. That's true. Their projection is that by 2020, it will be 30 million gallons per day. Realizing that as we continue to grow, that we may face a water problem and a water shortage one day. We certainly don't want to get ourselves into the situation that the St. Pete area did a few years ago when they had to put a moratorium on all construction until they worked out the solution to the problems. Their solution was go to an alternative resource for water. We have been looking at that in Seminole County as a possibility to increase our water supply. That will be expensive. We already know that. We've taken other measures also to try to reduce the use of potable water. We already mentioned to you the regulation there of the days that you can water the lawn. But there are other measures that have been taken. The county is supporting this effort to conserve water by extending the pipelines for reclaimed water out into the northwest portion of our county, where there is a tremendous need to reduce the consumption of potable water there. The reclaimed water, of course, you know, is highly treated wastewater, will be used in those areas to irrigate the neighborhood. We need to be able to expand it even beyond that high-use area in the future. This project alone is projected to save approximately 900,000 gallons of potable water a day. The county's taken other measures in trying to conserve water through educational programs such as the WaterWise landscaping, irrigation audits for homeowners, in addition to an artesian well plug-in program that's been going on the last few years. The plug-in of those artesian wells is done at no cost to the homeowners. But our problem is that most of these artesian wells are on private property, and we have to depend upon the owners of that land to come forth there and give us permission to go in there and plug those wells. So if you know of any out there, or if you have any land that has artesian well, please contact us so we can come in and plug your well for you at no cost to you. I mentioned to you a moment ago about alternative resources. This is one of the areas that we've been looking at since 1998, and that's being able to look at the possibility of drawing water out of the St. Johns River, treating it, and being able to use it as potable water. There's also the option of drawing water out for irrigation purposes there. This will be an expensive operation to do. We participated with St. John's and Volusia County there in having a feasibility study done in order to determine where would be the best location for a plant to process the water there to make it usable throughout the county. Now, ladies and gentlemen, water in the future is not going to be cheap, and it won't be inexpensive to BREA to be able to construct a processing plant. So we need to enjoy it while we can. But if we continue to grow and we continue to use water the way we have over the last several years, there is going to come a time when there is going to be a shortage, and we need to be prepared to deal with that when that time occurs. I want to share with you another major concern that the County Commission is having to deal with these day and age. And that major challenge is a significant increase in the request for land use changes, particularly from office and industrial to apartments and condominiums. The Commission has become very concerned about the economic sustainability of the county if this trend continues. Another concern with this land use change is the impact upon the county school system. Seminole County has one of the best school systems in the state, and that's a very desirable characteristic for any business looking to move into an area or for a business to expand, is a good school system. It's been one of the driving forces for us to be able to draw industry into this area. We cannot, under any circumstances, allow the educational system in this county to deteriorate. It just cannot be allowed. And we already know, we've heard from the school board tremendously about the changes of land use and how it impacts the school system. The school system is required to plan their capital outlay program, their building program, 5 years and out into the future, and even beyond that, some instances. And they do the planning based upon how the land is scheduled to be used and zoning. And so when we as the county commissioner began making all these land use changes where there is office or park or industrial or commercial, which have very little impact upon the school system, to rooftops, that has a significant impact. And they've called it to our attention, and rightly so. The Commission recently commissioned a study to try to determine the long-range impact upon the economy of this county if we continue that trend of moving from office parks, et cetera, to rooftops. That study is about completed and has been presented to the board. It has some very good information in there, and I'm sure the board will be looking and considering that information as we look towards the requests that are coming in this area. I pointed to you a moment ago, and it's a very popular area, and rightly so, is the I-4 corridor. We've gotten a lot of requests lately for changes in those land uses there. And as I mentioned to you early, the I-4 corridor has been the driving force among the high-paying jobs and bringing industry into Seminole County. So this is an area that needs to be carefully considered by this board, and they want to have some tough decisions to make in the future. There's one other area that I want to share with you that is a major concern to Seminole County. That's unfunded mandate. The County Commission over the last several years has had to weigh either raising taxes or limiting programs due to the reduction in revenue sharing from the state and the unfunded mandates passed down to us by the legislature. The state's reduction in county revenue sharing impacted Seminole County government approximately $23 million since the actions were taken, which started in 1999. The state's elimination of the recycling grants for counties while the requirements are still in place has cost Seminole County government $1.5 million since its inception. The state's mandated contribution to the Medicaid cost Seminole County government approximately $600,000 since that legislation passed. The state's House Bill 113A mandated certain costs for court system operations to be the responsibility of the county. The net effect of that is approximately $700,000 annually. The most recent impact felt by Seminole County citizens was the recent action of our state legislature to shift some cost for the Department of Juvenile Justice expenditures to county government. The county has estimated that impact on the county budget to be $2.1 million annually. This is scheduled to go into effect July 1, unless our legislative delegation is successful in getting that legislation revisited. The delegation from the county visited in Tallahassee and attempted to help our delegation to understand the impacts that have occurred since '99 on our ability to meet the needs of Seminole County. Our commission believes that the court system there and juvenile justice is the responsibility of the state and should be paid by the state. As the legislation is written right now, Seminole County has absolutely no oversight responsibility over the juvenile justice group. But we are required to write the check, or will be, unless there's some changes. Now let me say a word before you think too harshly of our of our delegation. We've got some mighty fine people that are in that legislature representing Seminole County, and they have a tough job. Since the inception of term limits, there seems to have been a much greater influence over the representatives that are sent up there by the governor and by the two leaders. And when they have cut deals and when they have their own agenda, it's extremely difficult for our legislative delegation to be able to get the support that's needed on local issues. It's tough in Tallahassee nowadays. We need to understand that. And we need to let our legislators know how we feel about it. We need to let the governor know and the others know that we cannot continue to absorb in our budget these unfunded mandates to the local budget. The legislature should not expect to balance its budget on the backs of local governments. And that message needs to be communicated to the entire legislature, not simply by Seminole County, because we are facing some expensive challenges here in Seminole County. Mentioned to you, there are some challenges that I won't be meeting with you. I'm going to take the rest of the time with me that I have up here to talk to you about the options that are before the board to deal with these challenges. First option, of course, is to do nothing. That's the least expensive in the immediate, but in the long run, it won't be upon the quality of life in Seminole County. Another, of course, is to increase impact fees, increase other user fees, increase the millage. And then, of course, there's bond referendum, where you go and ask the public if they want to fund those issues. These are the questions that's going to be facing these 5 people over the next few months. How are we going to deal with these challenges and continue to operate government to the level that we have over the last several years? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it will not be done on the same amount of revenue that we presently have, and especially if we continue to lose revenue from the state and federal government. You know, there are already 150 programs in the president's budget that are scheduled for reduction. Many of those will impact what happens here in Seminole County and the county's ability to meet their needs. We recognize that we are growing and we have a lot of buildings that are going up, and this will increase the value of a mill, which will provide new dollars. But it will not provide nearly enough to meet these challenges that we have mentioned to you and others that are out there. Seminole County has been fortunate in the fact that the value of the mill over the last several years has been going up and up. And we've been living off of that growth. That's one of the reasons that the county commission has not voted any increases in the voted millage by the commission. It's the new dollars that's coming in. But those new dollars will not be sufficient to meet these challenges that we have and the others that are out there. But I believe there's one more option that needs to be considered, and that's consolidation of services. Now, yeah, I know that's going to be a political hot potato. But as I told the board, I believe a person in leadership position has 2 options. They can serve themselves, or they can serve the people who elected them to that position. Seminole County is the smallest county in the state in the area of land, but we're approximately the 10th largest in population. And I personally believe that we are a prime target for consolidation of services. Now, I'm not in any way advocating that we do away with cities. I'm talking about services duplication of services that are taking place in this county that our citizens are having to pay the municipality for, and in most instances, the county also. And I think it's important that we study that. We've already demonstrated that there can be some savings when we merge the fire department with Altamont Springs there, which saved millions of dollars. There may be other services out there that the municipality can render in a much more effective and a cost-effective and efficient way than the county is presently doing. But there also may be some services that the city is rendering that the county might be able to perform in a more cost-effective way and a more efficient way. We will not know that unless we can join together and study the situation to see if savings can be realized. And I hope that we will not shy away. I'm suggesting that there be a joint study committee set up of representatives from the municipalities, from the county, and from appropriate business to help us to look into these situations. And I'm hoping that the municipalities will be willing to sit down and to study this, because I don't believe that the citizens in this county can afford duplication of services anymore, and then to meet the challenges that are out there. The municipalities also have some major challenges that they could share with you, just as I am. And I think that makes it even more important that we do a real sincere study to see if we can render more efficient service at a more cost-effective way for the benefit of the citizens that we serve. And I believe that can be done because we all share the same set of values. We all want better schools. We all want better transportation. We all want more cultural events. We all want more parks and recreation opportunities. They're the same things that the cities want. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time that we realize that we all serve in the same people. And that if we can work together more closely and if we can cooperate as governmental agencies and as business, we can meet these challenges. And we can make Seminole County a better place in which to live. And it can truly be a great place to live, work, and play, and continue to be the natural choice. I ask you to share these things with your neighbor, and you consider them, because they are going to be on the radar screen in the very near future. And I'm happy to serve with this group of people over here. I think they're sincere about the goal that we've set up, and that is to make Seminole County a better place to work and to live. And if we work together, we can accomplish that. Thank you, Diane, for allowing us to share this. Thank you for listening.